Hey guys, I'm Ubiru and welcome back to World of Warships. It's finally here. The World of Warships 0.3.1 closed beta update has now been released. This is the first major update to World of Warships closed beta since its inception about 2 months ago. The download is about 2.6 gigabytes, so as you would expect, it contains a lot of very cool and interesting changes. So before I run through each and every aspect of this update, I'll leave a 5-second content page for those who wish to skip to individual parts of the update. So I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so I've just logged into the 0.3.1 update, and as you can see, straight off the bat, things have changed. So as you can see, this is the premium dock, and the premium dock looks a lot different now than it used to. The first changes of the 0.3.1 update is the addition of achievements and signal flags. So as I go to the profile here and check out the levels, this is the same sort of progression system as in some FPS games. You have an extra level now. This is level 7, and you have something called signals. Now, signals are used as like benefits and upgrades to your ship. Now, signals are temporary upgrades for your ships, which you earn by earning achievements. Because of the accumulated experience I have in this game so far, it did automatically unlock level 7 for me. So signals, we have, you can mount signals to enhance the performance of your ship, to increase the amount of credits and experience earned in a battle. So now, similar to World of Tanks, you have something called achievements, and when you earned achievements, you can spend the achievements like currency on signals. So 1 signal per battle, and they give you a whole range of upgrades, and I'll show you that in a second. Also, once you've unlocked level 7, you get a premium account bonus of 1 extra premium day. So that's always good. If you're not really using premium, you can enjoy the new dock. So now, similar to World of Tanks, there are a whole bunch of achievements to this game, ranging from basic setting people on fire and destroying her by doing more than 50% damage, to things like hitting the enemy with a salvo and destroying them. Taking damage, which is interesting, the fireproof one, receive damage caused by fire that exceeds 50% of your ship's health, and survive the battle. There are a couple of fire achievements, receiving fire damage and giving fire damage. Now, high explosive damage on your ship's main battery has vastly been increased in terms of how quickly it sets people on fire and how much average damage it does. So now high explosive does something between 60 and 80% damage of your AP, but also has the chance of causing fire. So high explosive has been given a very big buff, and a lot more people will be using high explosive exclusively from now on. Of course, we have some of the standard achievements you would expect from a wargaming game like this one here, which is a high caliber, which is your damage must exceed 30% of the total health of the enemy ships, and you must damage at least 4. And you also have this one, which is a bit odd, which is receive critical damage to the magazine, resulting in detonation. So if you get magazine detonated, you get an achievement. So once you've achieved an achievement, you can get something now called a gift box, which is a reward which you can get once in a 24-hour period. A gift box in War Thunder would be something like increase in how fast you get experience and how much credits you get. But in World of Warships, you can only get rewarded signal flags at the moment, because that's the only thing really they have to give you. Okay, so this is my New Mexico, the Tier 6 American Battleship from the new tier line. And I'm going to show you guys some of the signals you can purchase with achievements or get from gift boxes. So the first one available is minus 100% chance to magazine detonation. So that's a really good defensive measure, and used especially well with the ships that are very susceptible to magazine detonation. The second one is plus 20% to combat capability recovery time when the repair party consumable is used. That's for battleships only. The third one is the plus 50% to experience earned in the battle. So that can be very good if you have a premium ship, for instance, and you want to accumulate more experience, which you can free up for free experience, so you can easily unlock and upgrade tier line ships. The fourth one is plus 5% to your ship's maximum speed. You can utilize this on the fastest ships in the game, so you can be knots and knots faster than the nearest ship. Or of course, you can use it on ships like the heavier battleships to increase their speed so they're more competent versus another tier line's battleships. For instance, the Congo is a lot faster than the Warspite or the New Mexico. The fifth one is plus 5% range to secondary battery. It increases the secondary battery accuracy, and it decreases the loading time of secondary battery by 5%. So this signal was very good on brawling ships like the new American Battleships. The sixth one is plus 20% to credits earned in the battle. Again, if you have a premium ship, you can put this signal on there to further increase how much credits you get, so it's easier to purchase ships and upgrades from other tier line ships. The 7th one is minus 5% to the cost of the ship's post-battle repair. This is best on the bigger ships like the battleships or the aircraft carriers. They tend to cost quite a lot of money in repair, and this reduces that by 5%. The 8th one here is minus 20% to flooding and recovery time. So when you've been hit by a torpedo, it reduces the recovery time by 20%. Same as if you've been hit in a module. You do have a repair dial which ticks, which does seem quite long usually, but with this it reduces that by 20%. The 9th one is minus 20% to damage received when ramming the enemy, and plus 50% to damage caused when ramming the enemy. So this is similar to one of the upgrades in World of Tanks, which increases damage to the enemy when you ram them and decreases the damage to you. And the last signal is minus 20% to time of fire extinguishing. So again, fire extinguishing does take some time to happen. Nowadays, with the amount of high explosive flying around, you will be set on fire, almost guaranteed, and you'll probably be on fire for the most duration of the game. So this is probably the most necessary signal at the moment. And of course you have the auto resupply, which is brand new. So if you accumulate achievements, let's say we continually accumulate the fireproof achievement, we can choose this one, click enable, and it will auto resupply similar to how ammunition works in World of Tanks. So the next thing really to mention now is that there is now a introductory mission that you get if you're a brand new player. You get into the game for the first time. You have an introductory mission which teaches you the basics of the game. It's like a tutorial. You can't get it once you've already played the game, but when you're brand new to open beta, you will have the introductory mission. Okay, so the next thing really is the team kill penalty system which they've implemented in this patch. Similar to how World of Tanks works, for any damage you do to your allies, you do get penalized. So whether you attack allies accidentally with a spread of torpedoes or intentionally, you do get penalized by getting a diminished amount of experience and credits earned. So again, similar to the team kill system in World of Tanks, you become a different color. You get a status which is called the team killer status once you've done enough damage to your team. So this is an interesting aspect of the penalty system. The person that is now the team killer status, whenever he does damage to an ally, he does damage to himself. Of course that all adds up, and he gets diminishing and diminishing returns in experience and credits. And depending on how much damage you do to allies, the multiplier increases. Let's say for instance you accidentally do a spread of torpedoes and you hit an allied battleship and it does 15,000 damage. You can get 15,000 damage on your ship instantly or more, all depending on how much previous damage you've done to allies in that battle. So it's good to mention that the team killer status players aren't banned at the moment, but they may implement that in the future. I think this system's really good, much better than the World of Tanks system where if you do team damage, you get kicked and you can't play anymore. In this game, you do damage to your allies and you take damage yourself. It doesn't actually mention here that when you become team killer status, that when you do damage to allies, it still counts. All it says is that it reflects it back and does damage to you. It may still do damage to your allies as well as you. It's nothing really to worry about this team killer status if you accidentally do damage to your allies. If you play normally, as you usually would, without harming allies, and you accidentally get team killer status with a torpedo spread, you can go back to normal if you continue to damage enemies as opposed to allies. I really like this team kill penalty system. I'm looking forward to what they do with it in the future. So the next part of the 0.3.1 update is the tech tree changes. So there are some very nice additions to this update, including the American battleships and the Japanese carriers. So let's start with the American battleships. So the first American battleship is the South Carolina at tier 3. The tier 4 is the Wyoming. The tier 5 is the New York. The tier 6 is the New Mexico. The tier 7 is the Colorado. The tier 8 is the North Carolina. The tier 9 is the well-renowned Iowa. And the tier 10 is the USS Montana. So as you can see, these ships do look very good, and I'm very much looking forward to playing the latter tiered ones. So there's a few interesting aspects I've noticed about the new American battleships, and that is that they are very much brawling ships. They have a lot of armor, not very far maximum range on guns up until sort of tier 7. They have good concealment and fantastic artillery firepower. The guns do turn quite slowly, however, and in most of the ships there are no upgrades for the guns, unlike the Japanese ships. So when we initially saw the British Warspite, we thought that was a terrible maximum distance on guns. So now that the American battleships have arrived, they are far worse. So initially when the HMS Warspite was released, yeah, we thought 16.2 kilometers on max guns was terrible in comparison to the Japanese. But looking at this, this ship at the same tier is only 14.9 kilometers. That's not very good. That's cruiser standards of maximum distance on guns. This does, however, change from Tier 8 onwards. Here we have the North Carolina, and he has fantastic armament, which goes in excess of 21 kilometers. From here on in, the range on these guns is massive. So the American battleships are very much brawling ships up until Tier 8, where they can fire in excess of 21 kilometers. Okay, now we have the Japanese carriers, which is another new part of the 0.3.1 update. So we start off with the Tier 4 Hosho, the Tier 5 Zoiho, the Tier 6 Roijo, the Tier 7 Hiryu, and the Tier 8 Shokaku. It was intended that the Japanese Tier 9 and 10 carriers would be released in this update, but unfortunately they were pulled in the last moment. That was the Toiho Tier 9 and the Hakuya Tier 10. So what's the difference between the Japanese carriers and the American carriers? The new Japanese carriers tend to have less planes in squadrons, but tend to have more of them available. This carrier, for instance, has 3 torpedo bombers, only at Tier 4, which is a huge amount, in comparison to the Langley's 2 squadrons. So in my opinion, the new Japanese carriers, you have to play more tactically, you have more squadrons to play with, but they have less planes, so you need to use them strategically to effectively take down the enemy. So looking at the Japanese tier line, there are a couple of changes in this update. We have the Furutaka now, which is the Tier 5 cruiser, from the Kuma to the Furutaka to the Oba, so there's no gap there now. And the Furutaka is much the same as the previous tier, with the exception that it has 203mm guns. And we also have the addition of the Tier 9 Japanese battleship, the Izumo, which is a fairly light armoured ship, only up to 152mm in armour. It does, however, have a whole bunch of health, a great anti-air capability, and some powerful guns. The guns can also go in excess of 21 kilometers, which is a huge amount. Also a change down the Japanese tier line is that the Tatsuta has been renamed to the Tenryu. It's the same ship with a different name. There has been some changes down the Japanese cruiser line, and that is that the Miyoko and the Megami have switched places. The Megami is now Tier 8, and the Miyoko is now Tier 7. Not a lot of changes in this patch to the American tier line. We have a couple of changes with the aircraft carriers. We have the Langley at Tier 4, which is the same. We have the Tier 5 ship, the Independence, which has been pushed up to Tier 6. The Tier 6 ship, the Saipan, has been removed, and the Bogue is now in the game. Other than that, the carriers are the same. The Ranger, the Lexington, and the Essex are unchanged. The new Tier 5 American carrier doesn't go very fast, only up to 17 knots. It does have a very quick turning circle radius of only 440 meters. Also has very weak armor at 16mm. It seems like a glass cannon of carriers. Very slow, very weakly armoured, but it does have a nice array of planes. So there has been some game balance changes, which are quite interesting. High explosive shells do more damage now, and they penetrate more. Torpedoes from torpedo planes are now harder to spot, so you don't see them instantly when the enemy plane puts them down. You have a slight delay, so it's harder for you to avoid them. There's a couple of changes with the battleships in the game. We have one British battleship, a whole tier line for Japanese and American battleships now. The action time for the HEAL, the damage control party, has a fixed time now. The Americans have 20 seconds for it to be fully healed. The Japanese have 10 seconds, and the British have 15 seconds. Another interesting change is that the damage control party has now been added to the Tier 9 and Tier 10 heavy cruisers in the game. Another change is that high explosive bombs from the dive bombers has been increased by a little bit. The reload time on some of the biggest torpedoes in the game, the 610mm torpedoes, has been decreased. A very important game balance change is that the ship mobility system has been improved, so that means the turning circle radius and dynamics are more dependent on the displacement, engine power, and dimensions and proportions of the ship. So you'll notice now in many ships that the turning circle radius is vastly improved. So there are some game balance changes for individual ships. The Yamato, the Tier 10 Japanese battleship, now has an increase in battery firing rate from 1.6 to 2.0 rounds per minute. So that will make the Yamato a far more formidable ship. Its renowned problems have been the very slow reload on guns, but now that's changed. The Tier 8 Japanese cruiser, the Kitakami, the overpowered torpedo runner, now has smoke charges. So now it can be very stealthy and surprise you in the middle of some smoke. Now an upgrade I was really looking forward to seeing is this one, which is the Baltimore's increase in firing rate. Initially it had 4.0 rounds per minute, and now it has 4.6 rounds per minute. So that does make a difference. I did feel that it wasn't a lot different from the New Orleans at Tier 8, but now it is. The Zao Tier 10 Japanese cruiser has been buffed. It now has an increase in health and an increased firing rate. There has been some pronounced changes now for the Japanese battleships. The anti-air armament on both the Fuso and the Kongo has now been reduced. The aiming speed of the main battery guns of this ship, the Fuso, has been increased. And the Amagi and the Nagato's secondary battery accuracy has been decreased. So there has been some nice changes for the Tier 6 British Battleship, which is the only British ship in the game. We have increased accuracy on secondary battery, main battery, and accuracy at short range. It's also good to hear that the damage control party of this ship is 10% more efficient. There are, however, some changes to the maps in the game from this update. I won't look at maps in this video, I'll look at maps in another video in the next couple of days. So there has been some graphical changes to the game, nothing major. There is now displaced air bubbles when the ship has been sunk. You can now see the trajectory of ricochets when you fire at a ship. And for all maps in the game area borders have received visual improvements. We're nearing the end to the changes of 0.3.1. We have a couple left. There is now a new and improved sound system for the game, so all shells sound different, all guns sound different. All shots in the game consist of 3 elements: attack, body, and tail. All shots in this game sound far better, and I'll show you some of that now. Last thing in this update is the system changes, and it just really optimizes the game to perform better on low and medium systems. So some of the things I haven't included in this video is some of the aviation changes, how some of the aircraft work now, but I will go through that when I run through some of the new carriers. So as you can see, 0.3.1 has been a fantastic addition to World of Warships closed beta. I'm very happy that they've introduced these new ships, these new updates, and I'm looking forward to other development in the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the 0.3.1 update. It is a fantastic update. If you have closed beta access, it's only 2.6 gigabytes to download, and it's a lot more content. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.